Welcome to the podcast, Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions. My name is Mike Dickson and I'm a professional sales and marketing recruiter. I love what I do, but my biggest frustration is seeing too many people not realizing their career potential. In this podcast, I'll introduce you to my network, an amazing group of business leaders in the biggest tier 1 organizations through to some super fast growth SMEs. They'll share their career journey and give you unique advice and insights on managing your career and leading a function and a business. Join me, Mike Dickson of AXR Recruitment and Search to help guide your future in sales and marketing. In this episode, we meet Emma Quigley, Sales Director of Koala. Emma's path to Sales Director is pleasingly unconventional, a bit like the Koala business. We explore how a mindset to disrupt the norm has played out in Emma's career and in Koala's success. Enjoy. Well, good morning and hello and welcome everybody back to the Sales and Marketing Director Incubator. The program helps you make great career decisions to maximize your potential. My name is Mike Dickson, Director of the Sales, Marketing and Category Practice here at AXR Recruitment and Search. Well, I say here at AXR Recruitment and Search, I'm recording from home today. And in the incubator today is Emma Quigley, Sales Director of Koala. And the theme for the session today is leading sales in a market disruptor. Welcome, Emma. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mike.
That's all right. Really looking forward to this conversation, Emma, and lots for us to get into and to add to our collection as we've been going through our guests this year. The first question is the same for everybody, which is, what's your favorite brand? And you can't say Koala or a brand that you've worked on or worked with, but what's yours?
Oh, I really want to pick Koala. That's not fair. But I guess that with my career journey, I'd have to pick a brand that's a bit of a disruptor, that are kind of in the marketplace. And I'd pick for the brand that I'd pick Milk Run, because it's also relevant to FMCG. And I know we've got a lot of FMCG listeners out there. And what I love about it is that it's the guy that's taken on Woolies and Coles, and it's a tough job, that game, and that they've taken something that Woolies and Coles weren't doing that well and made it much, much stronger. So like deliver groceries in within 10 minutes, and the app is so good, it's easy to use, and it's frictionless kind of process. And, not to mention that if we talk about the brand itself, that they really focus on their riders and make those integral a part of their campaign. Like they've got this Meet the Milkos, and that gives that real local feel of the Milk Run. It's also cheeky and fun. I don't know whether anyone's read about Milk Run, but they do lots of kind of risque stuff as well. There was this troll that wrote 6 comments on their website, and then they wrote back to him publicly and said, "You're our best supporter, and because of that we're going to give you a discount." And the discount code was loyal troll, 20% off. So they're just really fun.
That's very cool. I actually haven't tried it yet, I must say, but I think I've got it because I know people that are now they're hiring in people from the FMCG world and building up what looks like quite a capable team, actually. And I can absolutely get it. So that's very cool. I love that, loyal troll. Excellent. And outside of work, we're going to do a lot of this conversation on your career and Koala, but what's your passion outside work?
I think you've got a balance. For me, I've got a balance being, at a desk or in business all day. And I like being in nature. I like being outdoors with my kids, my family. I'm also a member of the surf club, Bronte Surf Club, which I just love. And they're like a kind of second family. So I spend a lot of time in the ocean. But when you're doing kind of things that, I don't know, more adventurous and a bit of risk, you just have a lot of fun and you make a lot of connections. So it's great.
Fantastic. What was the surf club? Bronte, do you say?
Bronte, yes. Bronte Surf Club, yeah.
Yeah. How often are you kind of down patrolling?
You patrol like 8 to 10 patrols a year, and then I do water safety with nippers with the kids, and they do a lot of training because you've got to be rescue fit. So you do a lot of fitness down the beach, so it's great.
Brilliant. Oh, good on you. It's a fantastic asset I think we have around the shores of Sydney and Australia, but very valuable indeed. So thank you for your service, Emma.
Wow, thank you.
Now, we're going to get to your career. As a reminder for those on the live call, guys, you're very welcome to ask questions. There is a chat facility. I'll make sure I put that chat facility up so I can see that. So, is there anything we talk about that you think, oh, I've got a point to make or a question to ask, jump on. I know most of you listen on the podcast. Sorry, you can't ask questions on the podcast. Well, you can, but no one's going to hear you, so that wouldn't be much use. Okay, so I mean, you had kind of 10 years or so in category, shopper marketing, some really big FMCG giants at the kind of the first part of your career. You worked at, Goodman Fielder, Reckitt, Kellogg's, kind of got to that head of level. Then you stepped off that pathway, which is interesting. Why did you kind of step away?
I guess at that time, I felt like I'd taken things as far as I could in the area. That been in FMCG, I'd been in a similar kind of stream for a long time, and I was finding it harder and harder to find new ways to learn more. And if I think like when I first came to Australia from the UK, I joined Uncle Toby's, and it was the first company in Australia to do strategic category management with Glendinning. We partnered with them, and that was just really exciting and intellectually engaging and stimulating. And, I've enjoyed all my roles, and like the last role in FMCG, my time at Kellogg's, learned deeply about brand, about consumer insight, about strategy and leadership. But after like kind of 7 years in like similar roles, but, different veins and different levels, that I wasn't really growing at the rate I wanted to. And I had read Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In at the time, which said go for experience, go for learning new things, and kind of that motivated me.
Brilliant. Well, one of the things we talk about a lot at AXR and in the incubator is do gather experiences that are going to give you breadth and perspective. That's only going to invest in your career potential going forwards. And you went to Luxottica for that kind of first step out. Now, I'm interested from their perspective. What did they see in you? Why did they hire you, do you think?
Well, they knew I didn't have the technical knowledge or industry experience. That was obvious. I've never worked in eyewear. I'd never worked in optometry or lenses. But they were looking for category management skills and experience. And as you know, that's an area that's in high demand in any industry. And they felt that with the right attitude, the technical stuff could be easily learned. I mean, I have to say they're like changing industry, like that's their perspective. But for me, changing industry wasn't easy. Like I experienced a lot of rejections, a lot of no's, and I know you're in recruitment. There wasn't a lot of support from recruiters in trying something new. And yeah, so I had to kind of keep trying to get to that place.
It isn't easy, and I think society and attitude to those changes is shifting, and I think that shift will accelerate, particularly. And I'm conscious of this because having seen my kids, or one's at uni, one's gone through uni, and sitting in some of the careers talks and the kind of perspective from the academics at university, that they talk about younger people coming through today with a wholly different attitude to career, and if that therefore has to shift the whole kind of game, I reckon. So they think that people will have many more careers than they used to have. So I think those paradigm shifts that you made are going to be much more commonplace and less paradigm, more just what you do. But I do understand the challenges you have, and we had a session on this topic in particular. I forget which podcast number it was, but it was all around, Hire the Outsider. It's the best move you'll ever make. And I really enjoyed that kind of podcast in terms of just kind of, trying to break down barriers on those moves. So I'm glad you've done it. And it's obviously been a great success. So give us a summary of your mandate at Luxottica. So what did you kind of step into, and how did you, once you got in, was it a big adjustment factor? Or was it not so tough?
Well, like first of all, I don't know whether people know like Luxottica, but it's kind of an optical retailer. They own like OPSN, Sunglass Hut, Ray-Ban, and they're the brands. They're vertically integrated, and it's just an amazing kind of success story because Del Vecchio, the owner, was an orphan in Italy, and he worked in the eyeglass factories. And then he just took risks and took opportunity after opportunity and rose to create something amazing. So within Luxottica, there's a real entrepreneurial spirit that's alive today, and I'll come back to that in a second. But my mandate within everything there was to lead the lenses categories, lead categories, and deliver growth. And that did also include leading buying teams, which I hadn't done before. And I guess the challenge that kind of I had, the category to buying is relatively similar, but really learning new products, and they are quite technical products as well, and just giving me the time and space. They gave me the time and space, and I allowed them the time and space to do that and to understand the industry. And it was something that, I was ready and I wanted to make a change. So I didn't find that. I think when you want something and it's the direction you want to go with, then those things aren't hard to do.
I like the point you made there, buying to category or category to buying, because there's a constant demand for category people, and we recruit in category, and we do a lot of work in that space. And one market we've not really tapped into is buying. Perhaps we should be looking at people who are in that kind of category buying side and saying, hey, look, there's another type of perspective in category, and getting a talent flow between the two kind of similar but different professions. But you reckon that's a kind of a bridge that could be gapped.
Definitely. I mean, I think if you've either way, because it's about negotiation as well, which is what you kind of play a role in within category as well. I think probably the key difference is that you can, you have to, in category, you have to influence the retailer to make change, whereas a buyer, you can drive that change more readily. Like you own the retail footprint, so you can drive that. And a kind of something that came to me is when I joined, is I remember presenting an idea to my boss and saying, that's great. And I said, I'll just do more analysis. I'll just do whatever, and I'll get some more details. And he said, no, it's a good idea. You've done enough analysis. Just do it. And that was oh, right, okay. And then you had to relook at it and think, is it the right thing to do? Because it was so quick. And that was partly because of the entrepreneurial spirit of Luxottica, but it's also that you can execute your ideas more readily when you're on that retail phase.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, different mindset and pace of decision making. Did that shift because you then changed to a locally owned smaller business, George and Matilda Eye Care, as head of product? So when that was it feels again another really interesting experience to gather. What was that business trying to achieve, and what were you able to do with George and Matilda?
George and Matilda was a startup, and it was aiming to be the third player, a player of independent optometrists in Australia. And that was the goal of what it wanted to do. And I guess when I joined it was a blank piece of paper. We had no stores, we had no products, we had no systems and processes. And together with a lead team, we built that. We formed all those things. We built ranges. We negotiated with vendors. We formed systems and processes. And I wanted to be part of that because it was just for me where I was wanting to go. Just so exciting to be starting something from scratch and build up. And when I left George and Matilda, we were, a significant size.
Yeah. And next was Koala, and we're going to get really into the Koala experience, Emma. So you joined as category director. First of all, when you look at a business like Koala, which is a real market disruptor, and I think it has this very kind of cool cachet from the outside looking in, people are always interested. So how do you get in? What's the recruitment experience like? What was it like for you?
I guess one of their mantras is that they don't hire arseholes. That's comes straight from the top. And so I do feel quite validated that I'm hired and I'm still there and that I'm not an arsehole according to their criteria. And like everything at Koala, I guess it's a fast process. And when I kind of tell you through the process, it doesn't sound fast, but it was quick from start to finish. So there's a screening interview, there's another formal interview, there's a a case study, and then there's an interview with a senior leader. But for me, that was with the CEO. So it does sound like a long steps, but actually within, I don't know, 7 to 10 days, I was offered a role. So it was quick.
So I like that because every stage is different. There's nothing worse than going through 5 or 6 interview stages and you're getting the same interview by 5 people. So it's great for them. They get 5 different views on you, but your experience is increasingly dull because you're just doing this, answering the same questions, but you described it there. Each phase is distinctly different and giving you a different experience and them a different view on you as well. So I think that's pretty good actually as a recruiter talking. But and I'm interested too, as whilst your background, you had this category shopper background in FMCG, you've kind of gone into Luxottica, George and Mildred, and got into more buying, and kind of then there was a whole operational side and within George and Matilda. But as a category director at Koala, I know it's not. We'll go on to your current role, but what was that role like? What were you trying to do there?
Well, category, the principles are the same in most organizations, but I do feel wherever I've been, and this, it doesn't matter if it's established or not, is that I spend a lot of time kind of explaining and educating the kind of business on what category actually does. Like it's some sort of witchcraft, a little bit of price, a little bit of promotion, a bit of range and category growth. So that's constant, and that was the same kind of at Koala, but ultimately the goals are the same, and that is we've got to grow categories and we've got to do that profitably. And that's constant in any role. I guess the big difference for me with Koala is that it was my first move to pure e-commerce play. So I wasn't a manufacturer. I wasn't a retailer with stores. I just one shop front. Now we've got more than one shop front. We've got stores in Japan, South Korea. Now we've opened other things that aren't just e-commerce, but at first it was just a pure e-commerce play, and that was very, very different. And not to mention furniture, which I'd not worked in before. And e-commerce is very dynamic, and I'm still learning today about it changes. Rules, legislation can change, and that changes your dynamic within the retail environment.
Where was your e-com skill set when you went in? Were they hiring you for that, or was that something they thought, you know what, we can dial that up? It's other things we see in you.
I had very little e-commerce experience. So in Luxottica, I think 10% of the business was e-commerce with contact lenses basically online. And in George and Matilda, it was really appointment bookings online rather than e-commerce sales. So I had very limited. So I wasn't hired for my e-commerce experience within Koala.
You're hired because you weren't an arsehole.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Now you're the sales director now, which is cool. And we'll get into that role in some depth. But talk about where that fits into a business like Koala, and what are you responsible for in that role?
For sales director in Koala, it's responsible for growth again. It's making sure it's across channels, it's across price, it's across promotion. It's making sure that we're all aligned to those things in the market. So yeah, it's driving growth and mobilizing people against that growth to deliver that.
And the KPIs are therefore revenue, profit, share, the usual kind of KPIs you'd find in a sales role.
Yes, yeah, they are. I guess share's harder for us because we're in a lot of new and established categories. Obviously, mattress is easier, but share within newer categories is tricky because we can't measure it in the same way. Share of voice, we can get some data there, but yeah, share.
Okay. I like it, it's because it seems like a radical move, right? You clearly made big, bold steps. You've got a track history of doing it differently, which must be one of the things that Koala liked about you. But it's not the traditional path to sales director, which is part of the whole point of why we do these. The incubator is to say to people, hey, there's not one path to that role, but it never is as linear as everybody assumes. But for Koala to put you into that role, is that quite normal for them to kind of take somebody who hasn't really run a sales function or had a lot of sales roles and saying, you know what, you're now in charge of sales?
I guess they've been big supporters of kind of cross-functional experience and kind of not always staying in your lane. And some examples of that we've got is my last two bosses really have been ex McKinsey, and Vicky joined the team as head of strategy, and now she's head of VP of operations. And there's other people. Someone joined as projects and has worked as now a product technical manager lead. So they're really cross-pollinating and sharing those experiences across different factors. And as the sales director of Koala, I'm also on the technical lead team, and that's to really bring commercial thinking into the tech team, but for me to also understand the tech reality of what we can deliver from a commercial and sales perspective.
Great. It's interesting when you say one of your ex-boss is McKinsey, because one of the things we talk a lot about in the program, and in the early days particularly, was the McKinsey T model, which is how they within McKinsey measure the upward mobility of potential leaders in organizations. And for them, it's all about, yes, you probably got some sort of functional strength, and then you have this, which is the vertical line, the T, and the horizontal line is experiential breadth you've got. And to them, giving people experiential breadth is a great thing, because it just gives that base to then become more senior leaders. So it's curious that it makes perfect sense why someone from McKinsey would be in your business. Now, I want to get into Koala, Emma. And as consumers, myself included, we have 2 Koala mattresses now in our house. Most of us will have an awareness of Koala as a disruptor, some great kind of ad campaigns. But a disruptor initially, certainly in a traditional market like mattresses and subsequently furniture. Talk to us a bit about that. So first of all, how has Koala managed to disrupt the market?
It was 7 years old now, and really it's gone from, in the first 12 months, I think it went from 0 to 13 million. So it's a really fast start and a lot of kind of exposure. But I think, a lot of people can kind of get hung up on the sensational side of that. But really, when you boil that down, it's really about the fundamentals. And what I say is, you've got 2 Koala mattresses. I've got 4 Koala mattresses at home, but they really do have a great product. And they offer great service. I mean, delivery in 4 hours, it's amazing. Like 120 night free returns, free metro delivery for your mattress, free and fast hassle, no free returns. So you could take your mattress, you could sleep on it for 120 days and send it back if you don't like it. So fundamentally, they had a great product and a great offer. So that, we talk about disruption, but it's getting those things right that kind of paved the path. They were kind of advocates and promoted getting the reviews. So they got lots of reviews and promoted those reviews so that people rate their products. So there's some validation for when people are shopping to do that. And a bit like Milk Run, as they made it easy for shoppers. It wasn't easy to buy a mattress, to go in, you had to wait 3 months for it to get it delivered, and then you didn't like it, and then it didn't come. So it was really making that process frictionless, not just the whole process, not just the site, the website experience. So I think and good value. So that's the mix that caused that fueled the disruption. And then if you think about their marketing, which is really, really amazing, and what they do is they create great content, and that content really works well on social media, and then they promote that content. And if you think back, and if anyone remembers, they did the wine glass test. And for anyone that doesn't,
that's what I remember.
The red wine glass on the mattress, and then people jump on the mattress and their wine doesn't spill. And I can't remember the number of views, but it was phenomenal, and that kind of rose them to fame. But they also do other disrupting things in marketing. Like, for example, we donate to Save Koalas, and they did a story that they'd saved all the koalas already. They were doing so well, they'd sold so many mattresses, they saved all the koalas. So they overnight they rebranded their site Wombat and said, because we've saved all the koalas, we're gonna change the brand to Wombat, and they got a lot of PR exposure for that.
Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it? As you talk through it there, I kind of go, yeah, okay. I all of you're saying is my kind of view and my experience of the business as a consumer. Um, and everything on its own is not radical, but you put it together and it kind of, and you do it all well, then it works. But I love that wombat. I missed that, but I think that's very clever. um, so what's the mission now? When you're part of that leadership group, so your role is, I guess, to bring that to life in the business. But talk us through what's the mission for Koala now?
Well, I always get mixed up with vision and missions, but I'll just put them all together. But like
Yeah,
our
okay.
vision is to create happier, healthier habitats, and the mission is better furniture experiences for the world in mind. That's our mission and vision. But in terms of bringing that to life, what that means is, like, we donate 1% of profits to the planet. We've been given over 2 million already to World WWF to help the plight of the koalas. We, in-house, we have volunteer days where we, only last week we were all planting trees in our local community. We're real we don't sell products that are harmful to animals. We put animal welfare first, and we don't, for example, sell anything leather. Like, we wouldn't sell a leather couch, and we reduce waste in I guess all that we do. So whether that packaging, whether that business process delivery, and we offer like recycling services for the mattresses. So we offer a way for people to get it picked up and reused. And we are like working towards, we're not there yet. We're working towards full circularity so that products stay in the process for longer and have another life somewhere else. And we've recently opened Koala Second Home, which is out in Campbelltown, which is all the products that get returned or products that are excess. So we're not wasting them. They're not getting in landfill. They're carrying on their life somewhere else. And I guess, like, beyond the environmental side, which is, passion of Mitch, the owner, but like of people that work there to drive. It's about kind of diversity and inclusion, and they're spending a lot of time on, every 2 weeks or even every week, we're having workshops on LGBTQI or Aboriginal First Nations and cultural immersion to kind of to make the world and make us better at who we are and what we're doing.
That sounds pretty interesting, actually. I like, in particular, your comment there around recycle, reuse, and I think there's in society we don't do enough of that. So we live in a throwaway world where if you don't, something's broken, you throw it away, get something new. I was going to ask the question, actually, if someone does return a mattress before 120 days. I mean, mine's mattress is pretty comfortable. I don't think I'd do it, but if someone does, what happens to it? But it feels like there's a pathway that gets upcycled almost and it finds a second home.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what condition it's in and whether we can reuse it. But we do break if we can't reuse it. Like, say somebody's, I don't know, done the gardening on the mattress, and then we can't like resell that, then we would like use the parts elsewhere, and it goes off to another avenue to be reused.
Cool. And in that theme of disruption, how far do you go? I mean, in prep for this, I was having a look at the ranges, and it definitely seems to keep evolving, Emma. But can you keep disrupting, or do you kind of start to mature as a business?
I think, well, we started as 5 big mattresses. Now we've got 300 and nearly 400 different products. And that's in a kind of short window. We were one category, we were 13 categories, or one country. We're now 3 countries. We were one platform. We were a website in Australia. Now we've got them around the world, but we've also in marketplaces like Amazon and Rakuten in Japan. And, we're bringing more and more award-winning products. So we were all about mattress, but now we're winning endless awards for our furniture, but particularly sofa beds, which we've got an award-winning range of sofa beds. And we're evolving how we serve our customers. And we are going to keep, that's the plan. We're going to keep innovating in products that we bring, but also service. So we're going to keep disrupting in that way. And that's the fundamental way underneath that. But on top of that, we've got our own in-house, which is quite unusual. We've got our own in-house creative team. And, we're working with them and we're still disrupting. We keep winning awards for campaigns. So, for example, recently this year, when the WA border reopened in March, we relaunched our sofa bed campaign and we renamed it the McGowan sofa bed. And we said that with the headline of it open and closes in seconds. And then they had lots of little product descriptors which said really welcoming when open, on retracts at a drop of a hat, and built to withstand large amounts of pressure. So kind of, it was a massive hit. We grew sofa bed sales, and and even McGowan himself wrote to us and said that he liked the joke, and it was fun. So there's, it's not, last week we closed the site for good on National Koala Day, and we diverted all our traffic to WWF to drive awareness of the plight of the koala. So we're always looking at things to do, and I don't think it's not easy, and you've got to keep digging deep to find those things, but they're still there, and we're just finding new content to re-engage with our shoppers, and that does mean it doesn't all work, it's not all great, and it's finding those that do.
One of our other clients is Meat and Livestock Australia, and I love what they do every year with their lamb campaign. It's like iconically Australian, and there's some similarities in terms of the cheekiness around what they do with what Koala does. I wonder if you use the same agency. I'm not sure, but some of the same creative thinking there. But so you're 7 years in. It's year after year growth, which is fantastic, but things must go wrong when you're trying stuff, Emma, in a business as a disruptor. Not everything's going to be a winner, and when stuff goes wrong, how does a business like Koala cope?
Well, things do go wrong because not every campaign wins, and not every product you launch is successful. And after everything I've said and the speed of what we're doing things, this may kind of be counter to that after everything I've said. But I guess, test and learn is part of our culture. But I'd also say we don't love failure, and we probably hang on a little bit too long before we kind of concede. But once we do, then we're quick to adapt and we adjust. But I think there's a wanting to succeed thing, and that's hard to take. It's probably our growth area to be better and move on quicker when things that don't work. But it's part of the makeup. We have to do that to do what we do.
It's interesting. It almost sounds like you liken it to like a sports person. There's a stubbornness around being competitive to win, but sometimes that stubbornness can take you down the wrong path too far. So that's the kind of thing to work on within the business, you feel.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, as sales director, year-on-year growth must come with a bit of pressure as well. The kind of the percentages to grow, every year. Again, the bigger you are, it's harder to kind of knock out the park in terms of the scale of the growth. How do you kind of manage expectation as a sales director around that?
Well, first of all, we all agree, we define the targets, we all agree to the targets, and we're all working to achieve them. So I guess it feels like shared pressure, and team love, because we're all gunning towards that. And it's together with our performance channel leads, and by that I mean marketing performance channel leads and country manager leads, and working with them to those same goals, I guess. And predicting the time of that's hard. Predicting how long we're going to grow at what rate for is tricky, and I don't have the perfect answer. We've just got to make the best estimates with the information that we've got and the plans we've got coming.
I wonder, with someone with your background who's got this finely honed analytical skill set, and when you're kind of that comment there, you're kind of making the best guess and estimate, that must be quite hard for you to take a little bit. But at the same time, it feels that that's a big adaptation for you, which is being able to kind of, say, well, there's only so much analysis we can do. Then we've got to actually just go with gut and kind of look at the trend and kind of, not base everything on the numbers, which is often the case in FMCG, down to the finest point.
Yeah, I mean, you get markers and indicators like your conversion on your site or your sessions on your site, or what's happening in the macroeconomic, and you've got to kind of use those to, but then in some cases we haven't launched that product before, we haven't played in that category before, and it's about kind of comparing it to something similar, and it's not always right. It's the best we can do with the information we've got.
Now, your career, your experience has breadth, as we've talked about, and continues to broaden. You mentioned a second ago, you're also part of this technical team, which is kind of bringing commercial thinking to the technical parts of the business. Now, is that something that you've driven, or is that something that Koala said, we're pushing you to broaden, Emma? How does that work?
In what mean? You mean like in...
So, for example, so I think you mentioned you kind of, is it like a cross-functional e-com digital team that you're also involved in? And that feels not the normal spot for a sales director to be in. Now, of course, your business is different. It's an e-com business. But is that a kind of a role that you said, hey, I want to get some of that? That's interesting for me. Or does Koala push you down into, to ensure that you keep broadening your perspective in your role?
I guess I don't feel pushed, but I think if you think in terms of e-commerce, it has a highly technical component. So to win in e-commerce, you have to understand the technical components of that and what's involved and how that works. And, it is a bit like a funnel. There's a lot of things we want to do on the site, and we have only so much time and resource to do that. So it's about working with the tech teams to find the best commercial outcomes that will deliver the best sales results. So it's more linked to commercial and sales than it is in a traditional bricks and mortar company, because it does drive things that you change, positioning a product somewhere, what product you prompt can change your sales results. So it does play a big role.
I think just hearing you talk, it's so different to the traditional sales director role in a really good way, because it's a completely different business, and testament to you stepping out and changing your path, and kind of this is where you've got to as a result of that, taking those risks and broadening. I think it's fantastic to see, where you're at right now. And I want to talk a bit next, Emma, about just advice for others who are perhaps thinking, wow, that's a journey I would love to replicate even part of that. For those thinking that, or in that kind of mindset, what would your advice be? How should they start it?
I think, well, first of all, work out why you want to do that thing. So like if, what's driving you and why, and then if you do, narrow it down to what areas or what industries or what skill set that you're looking to get, and then maybe even like, why can't I get it where I am, or can I create it where I am? Because moving's it's not always about moving, it's about growing. So can you do that within that? And then I'd suggest you build your network, or you call on your network of friends, contacts, recruiters, and explore those possibilities to how to do that, and find those partners that are going to kind of support you and help you on that journey. And then once you've done that, you set your plan out and you keep going, and yes, you're going to get rejected, and you just keep going until you get and can shape something that's going to work for you.
My advice to add to that as well would be to actually look to examples like yourself and others of you in this podcast whose paths are different and who have broadened, and to use those case studies to help break down the barriers. Because when you get an objection within your current business, it could be just that they haven't thought in those terms before, or a recruiter who's not seen that done. But if you're actually able to point to examples of where people have done that successfully, increasingly so, and the trend is going that way, then I think it makes it really real. It's not a theory. It does happen. It does work. It can be successful. And I think you're, should be an inspiring example of that, Emma. So I genuinely believe that. And I think, so don't just stick it to theory, guys. Describe Emma's career path and look at the role she's doing just now. That's something you could do. Now, I'm curious too, because you kind of banked a fair degree of experience in the traditional path before you stepped off, as we said right at the start of the conversation. For you, that was the right stage, the right time. Is it you think important for someone to kind of get that bank of experience to a point first before they start moving laterally and broadening, or could it happen any time?
Personally, I think it's any stage. I just wouldn't restrict anybody by their age or career level or time in role. I mean, there are always trade-offs to what decisions that you make, and you need to work those through, whether they're right for you and what's important. But I mean, we don't get one career. You can have multiple careers, but you get one life and one shot. So I think if it feels time to change, then and you can do it, and you've worked all the trade-offs out, then go for it.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like any risk in life. I remember when I was in my mid-20s, and my then girlfriend, now wife, and I decided to take a year out and go traveling. And everyone said to me, "I wish I could do that." My answer was always, "Well, why don't you?" It's sometimes you just got to take a risk, and what's the worst can happen? It's one life, live it. Now, I also think people listening to this conversation today, or they've got a great podcast listenership, will be kind of going, I'm inspired by Emma, but I really like what I hear about Koala too. So a little bit of a kind of inside track. What you talked about noir souls, but what do you look for, and how do you go about finding it during a recruitment process in terms of finding that person that's going to fit the Koala mold?
Well, I guess what they're looking for is like people that can actively demonstrate like resilience, adaptability from their past experience, and that paired with kind of a lack of ego, and it's like kind of critical in like surviving and thriving in a startup environment where you're working extremely collaboratively at a crazy pace. There's kind of not time for other things. So I think that's the key things, because all the rest of it gets in the way of getting stuff done. So that's what they're looking for, and that they'll be looking for in that process. And this is tested throughout every stage of the process, through the case study, through the stakeholder interviews. And that's kind of the key of what they're looking for, and what the questions they'll be asking to bring that out. I'd say that's kind of the key things.
From my perspective, through any interview process, any selection process, no matter what the company, being able to understand what they're looking for, so that's really useful advice, is great. And if you're going to any recruitment process and you're not sure what they're looking for, then you probably shouldn't be entering the recruitment process. You should be clear to a point on what you're aiming at, and then you build, you assess your own narrative. You think, well, is that me? And if it is, then how do I make sure that I land those messages in a way that is memorable? And that's being able to storytell and bring your examples to life. We've got a great guide, guys, on this called Getting Yourself Interview Fit. So not just for Koala, but for any role or process you're getting into, being interview fit is a really important skill, because it means you're spending less time worrying, have I done a good interview? And you're more focused on, okay, is Koala right for me, or is company X right for me? What else, should someone do to prepare for an interview with Koala or a recruitment process? Is there things that you've seen that impress you, where someone's gone above and beyond, or just brings a mindset that demonstrates the prep they've done?
I think it's really about like same things that apply to most interviews as what you've said, but do your research and be ready to tell them why you identify and you can align with what Koala's mission and vision is. Like how you can demonstrate that is, they do send out tips and tricks to all candidates of how to perform well in the interview. And the case study challenge is critical, because you're given a real workplace scenario challenge that we've got at the moment in the business. So that's your opportunity, and you get time to prepare for that. It's your opportunity to demonstrate how you can apply that thinking and your vision and align to the vision and values throughout that. So I definitely think that's a way to kind of to bring that to life.
I love that they said hints and tips on how to interview. That is so rare. That's what we do as recruiters. So because so many people aren't prepared, and great candidates often don't get selected because they don't interview well. And so I think that is really empathetic and collaborative. Love it. Very good. Now, finally, back to you. So sales director of Koala, great journey to that position. I love your career so far. Where do you go next?
Well, first of all, I'm thinking about a long holiday in Hawaii somewhere, maybe with some cigars or something like that. But but for me, I've still got a lot of learning to do in e-commerce, and I want to develop and grow within that space. And I have also explored, like, would I ever flip back to big business and take all the things I've learned in startup and e-commerce, and can that be applied back, and how would that work? That's an exploration maybe for another day. But whatever path, I definitely want to work somewhere that I'm aligned to the values, that wants to make the world like a better place and a more sustainable place. And whatever I do, that will be at the core.
Can't wait to see where you go in the future. I've got a big job in front of you in Koala. I'm sure that journey will continue for quite some time to come. That's us out of time. Thank you so much for just sharing your insights, really honest conversation, great insights into a business like Koala. I think a lot of people look and admire the kind of the success over the last 7 years of an Aussie business really disrupting the market. So, and the role you're now playing in that, which is brilliant. Now, guys, Emma's our 52nd guest. You can catch the previous 51 on our podcast, Your Future in Sales and Marketing, available on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. Next up in the incubator is John McLaughlin. Now, John is the CEO of the Advantage Group, a must-listen session for anybody interested in how the tag report works, particularly for those in that retailer supplier landscape across the kind of FMCG liquor world. You'll all be aware of your tag score. Listen in, you might get an opportunity to figure out how to improve your tag score and why it's so embedded in that society. Before we finish up, a small pitch for AXR. Our sales and marketing recruitment team is now 2.5 years old. We're delighted by the support that our leaders have given us in terms of our clients. All the future leaders are candidates, and so much so we're looking to hire 2 more consultants. And I'd love you guys, anybody you know in your network, at that kind of graduate to 2 years early stage career, who's smart, curious, energetic, ambitious, please send them my way. We've got a great environment in our business too. So that's the pitch for AXR. Please DM me if you know anybody. But Emma, thank you again. That was absolutely superb. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for having me, and thanks everyone for listening. Thank you.
Guys, see you all again in the Sales Marketing Director Incubator in 2 weeks' time. All the best. Have a great day. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more inspiring journeys and advice from Australia's sales and marketing leaders. You just can't get this career insight anywhere else. My name is Mike Dickson. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.